Of course not. This Women's Month, we honor the legacy of women who shaped South Africa's past and those who are redefining its present. And in this special report, Malungelo Booi speaks to queer women at the forefront of challenging gender norms and advancing equality for the LGBTIQ+ community. He explores what it means to be a woman in a society that often views gender and sexuality through a narrow lens. Take a look at this.
I would call myself an economic activist because I'm very passionate about opportunities and access for queer people in rural areas and small towns.
I never really got to experience transphobia or any form of homophobia until high school.
I said to the doctor, I have pelvic pain, I need to understand what's going on. And the doctor said, could you be pregnant? You know, and I said, no, I am not pregnant, doctor, because I am a lesbian. You know, I do not have the type of interactions that would lead me to pregnancy. And the doctor kept insisting, no, I need to do a pregnancy test just to be sure. And she was quite hostile in how she had that conversation with me.
Faith Edmonds, Vyoga Zimbuto, and Dr. Dulcie Raguma identify as queer women. Their stories shed light on what it means to exist at the intersection of womanhood and queerness in South Africa today. Born in Taung in the Northwest, Faith Edmonds grew up in a mixed-race household. From an early age, she understood diversity not just as a concept, but as a lived experience.
In high school, that is where I would say, discovered myself. That, okay, my sexual orientation is different. I do not fall into the heterosexual category. But I think in terms of just being myself, I've always been liberated. So I've never had that fear of expressing myself authentically to any type of group. I didn't really struggle. The only things that I struggled with in terms of high school is the fact that they were not noticing queer people. I remember even when my teachers found out that I was queer, it was something that they didn't really take it seriously. It was like a phase that, no, you will grow up and you will get over this.
Rather than being discouraged, Faith found her purpose in advocating for the rights of queer people in rural and underserviced communities.
I was very passionate in terms of just leadership, in terms of showing people that as a woman, besides just having a different sexual orientation, there is a space for us to lead. But I think it grew over the years, just to start to notice it when you go to different places and also hear the lived realities of other people to say, but this is very serious. Like, we are getting discriminated, we are getting killed because we are just different from other people. We would have a conversation and the sexual orientation would be something that we speak about in passing. And the first thing a person would say to me is, why are you dating women? You are so pretty. And I never really got it to say, how is how I look and the person that I am, why is it a problem for you? And even after that comment, the energy would shift to the plans that we had, right? If maybe we are trying to start a project together, that automatically would make a person start to view me differently.
Today, she runs an NGO that champions the economic rights of LGBTI+ people, focusing especially on access in small towns.
I love Kalame Foundation. Kalame Foundation is a foundation that is really rooted in empowerment and love and resilience. What we do is that we advocate for queer people in small towns and rural areas. We advocate for financial opportunities, we advocate for access, and we advocate for visibility. So what we want to make sure, or the vision of Kalame Foundation, is that we want to see a gay person in Morokweng being able to access opportunities without having to move to the city, right? We don't feel like opportunities should come with a postcode or a geographic location.
Dr. Dulcie Ragumagua's journey into medicine started in Hammanskraal, watching her grandmother queue to see a local doctor.
So when I grew up, especially when I was very young, my grandmother would come visit us all the time, you know, like in the township, mostly once a month. because she would need to go, see the local doctor for her chronic illnesses. So when we were together in that queue with my grandmother, she said, you need to grow up and become a doctor, so that you can treat me at home. I took that decision from as young as 6 years old that one day I'm going to grow up and become a doctor so I can treat my grandmother at home.
But it was a painful university consultation that revealed how hostile the health system can be for queer people.
The doctor kept insisting, no, I need to do a pregnancy test just to be sure. And she was quite hostile in how she had that conversation with me. So at that point, again, it was that realization that this is what queer people go through when they go and consult, and if this is my experience with the little knowledge that I have, because I was still a medical student by then, what more, happens to queer people, who have no access to a lot of these things. Queer people in rural areas, in townships, what are their experiences when they go and see a doctor? That is when I decided that one day when I have my own medical practice, I will make sure that it is a safe space for the LGBTI as well.
Today, Dr. Ragumako leads a healthcare organization with 13 inclusive health centers across the country.
For me, I have found that the biggest barrier to accessing healthcare is provider attitudes. So attitudes of providers make people not go and access healthcare. We know we have had this discussion when we talk about termination of pregnancies, for instance. A lot of people will go back door, and do this because they are scared of the type of attitudes they would encounter when they go to and talk to the sisters. Now, when you look at the LGBTI and the type of attitudes and discrimination they experience in these healthcare spaces, you're talking of transgendered individuals who might need hormones. You're talking of MSM, who might have a sexually transmitted infection and think that these guys are going to focus more on my being an MSM rather than treating my, condition. I'm talking about my own experience as a lesbian who went out to seek healthcare. We're talking about mental health, access for this population as well. It's important that we understand the difference between sex and gender, right? Like when you're talking about sex, you're talking about how people were born. When you're talking about gender, you're talking about how people present in society. There are women, cis, heterosexual women that exist. They have rights. They have right to access all the services and all everything that is promised to every citizen in this country. So when you talk of sex and gender diverse women, this access is blocked by so many factors. And attitudes of the different providers in the different institutions play a big role in how people are accessing what they are promised by the Constitution. So when we come to Women's Month, we need to just broaden our lens a bit when we talk about women and not just think of women as we've traditionally known women to be. We need to understand that there is heterosexual women, there is homosexual women, there is transgendered women, there is intersex women. So we do not need to be leaving anyone behind. When we talk diversity and inclusion or creating systems that respect inclusivity, we need to make sure that we do not leave anyone behind.
Let me just say, being a Black trans woman is understanding intersectionality and what it comes with. Being trans is being open to evolving, open to transforming, open to transitioning, right? So I think being a Black trans woman means exactly that, being able to not be boxed.
Growing up in a Free State village, Vuyokazi played netball without issue. But high school marked a painful shift.
First grade, I was playing netball, and there was never a time or a place where my netball coach, who happened to be my favorite teacher, never had anything to say or tell me you can't play sport because you are trans. So it was just a very welcoming and very friendly and very inclusive environment until high school. That's when I, started becoming very openly me. Right? And that's when I got chased out of a school because I'm trans. That's when I started, sort of understanding that I'm a different kind of woman, because I had women friends, what others would say female friends only, and yeah, I never really experienced any sort of form of violence or anything until I think the age of 13, and it was a very rude awakening, I don't want to lie, but also very shocking, because I mean I had not experienced this from a young age.
Even in adulthood, public life remains fraught with risk for trans people.
I treat every public trip as an educational experience. Navigating public spaces in South Africa for trans people is very violent, because, you know, there's all forms of violence that are meted against our bodies. But one thing that I've realized is that navigating public spaces need you to not meet ignorance at its point. You need to meet it with very cautious kindness and also some level of intelligence. When someone is ignorant, the best thing that you can do for yourself in that space is try to sort of impart something that they're never going to forget from you, right? So if someone is catcalling me or like saying, hi, trans, whatever, hey, what are you? I often very calmly and kindly respond to them and like, hi, my name is Foyo, I do this for a living, and what do you do? So that I can establish a common ground.
Through her NGO work, she educates rural communities on trans issues, meeting people where they are.
One thing about NGOs in South Africa that we're trying to do, and somewhat are moving in the right direction, is making sure that we sensitize and go into these spaces that are somewhat violent towards trans bodies. I think for me, that's what I say. I said to you that I meet ignorance with some form of kindness and information and education. So in that space, it's not only people that are inherently transphobic. It's people that are being fed these ideas about trans people that are just, you know, harmful to them and harmful to the trans community. So what I think needs to happen is we need to change the narrative. I think more NGOs need to penetrate such spaces. And a lot of them now are doing Bumakasi talks where they penetrate taverns and stuff like that. I've done that through the work that I was doing in the Bojanala region in Rustenburg for the past 2-3 years. And also taxi ranks also, you know, we pull up with gazebos, we get there, we inform people. We're like, this is us, we are trans. What do you want to know? You know, which stereotypes have you been given that you do not believe in, or you think, you know, I should be dealing with? Let's discuss it.
But service delivery, especially health, remains a major hurdle.
Accessing everything is a problem. It's still a problem even today. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not work that's been done. There is work that's been done, but I'm not sure if it's as effective as we want it to be. If I was to go to a public hospital right now, they would not know how to deal with me, because my ID would say male, but then I would tell them, but I'm not male, I am a woman. There would be a whole entire commotion around that. To say, the first thing that they ask, have you medically transitioned? Which is not a factor when you identify as a trans woman. Or why does your ID say this? Like, there's a lot of hurdles that you need before accessing the care. In J, there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of outing. And other trans people are fortunate enough that they pass. So they look like cis heterosexual women to the T. So that brings so many problems.
As South Africa celebrates Women's Month, these voices remind us that gender equality must be inclusive. Womanhood is not one thing. It is many lived realities. From rural villages to urban clinics, queer women are reshaping the narrative around gender, equality, and dignity in South Africa. This Women's Day, may we honor all women in their full diversity.